I like to get shit-faced. I don't know. That's about all I like to get.
Sword sheath, it's the return of the blade and slice shade, getting paid until my silhouette fades. A mercenary, spit the levy versus scary sage, doing girlies dirty, splitting with obituaries. Death is not a factor.
Despite esports being a multi-million-dollar industry, it still struggles to find credibility. For those of us who follow esports or even participate in esports, it's a no-brainer. Of course, what we do should be taken seriously. Just go to any fighting game major, or hell, watch any Dota or League tournament. The amount of people who go just to spectate rivals the World Cup. That doesn't even include the numbers brought in by streamers. The biggest argument against places like ESPN hosting esports events is that video games aren't sports. Usually the people making these complaints are the same people who have an issue with golf or poker being broadcast, making the argument that these aren't athletic, therefore they're not sports. Well, it's a dumb argument mainly because at the end of the day, all that matters is views. These people tend to ignore a major loophole, if you will, motorsports. Motorsports is an interesting industry because it encompasses several different sports like Le Mans, Formula One, NASCAR, and Formula Drift. There's a lot more to it than just its athletes, or in this case, its drivers. For one, there's no separate league for men and women in motorsports. Each of the sports treats men and women exactly the same way. There's no softball or women's basketball equivalent in motorsports. It's all unisex. The equality may not apply to marketing, but when it comes to the rules, men and women are treated the same way. French rally driver Michel Mouton was known for being the most reckless and fearless driver of Group B, which, if you know anything about Group B, was banned for being too dangerous. Aside from inclusion, the automotive industry itself plays a big part in the sport. Fierce competition in race cars means more innovation for street cars. If you like having ABS and paddle shifters, you can thank motorsports for that. Most of all, motorsports is global. Well, yes, Le Mans is in France, drifting was born in Japan, and NASCAR is purely American. Each of these have a global audience and have drivers from around the world. Now, why am I bringing all this up? Because all of it applies directly to esports. Well, yes, like in motorsports, while there's a lot more men generally found in esports, you'll see a lot more women in their respective games. Well, for example, in my local FGC, we have a lot of prominent female players and even trans players that regularly place in tournament. You look to Twitch and you'll find a plethora of players from all walks of life. The bottom line is esports are just more accessible to a larger group of people. Developers are also heavily involved in esports, developing games specifically geared toward competitive play. I mean, Nintendo gave Smash Wii U players an adapter so they could use a controller from a console 3 generations ago. Developers are also careful to listen to feedback from these players in order to make their games better. Smash Switch, all I'm saying is I want the Wave Dash back. Drug use is a pretty rampant and unregulated practice in esports, but instead of something like steroids, it's more akin to something like Adderall. The issue when addressing any new sport is how do we regulate this, and moreover, how do we carry over these changes from game to game. EVO is a completely different environment to something like the League Championships with very little overlap. The way cheating is addressed is also very different. There's just a lot more complexities introduced when playing video games, as every game essentially has its own rules. Some tournaments outright ban characters, while some allow them. Anyone remember when Lucas and Mewtwo came out for Smash Wii U? How about when wobbling was discovered? That being said, those things are what make the sport interesting. Video games by nature are dynamic. New games come out literally every year. With games like League and more recently Fortnite being free to play, it has never been easier to get into esports. We can sit here and talk all day about how Shaq owns an esports team or the obscene amounts of money that these streamers make playing games. However, aside from all that, at the end of the day, esports brings people together in ways that other sports just can't do. And that means something. Look, you don't have to really understand it or even like it, but at the very least, you can't deny that esports are here to stay. What do you think? What esports are you into? Do you think esports will ever be as respected as any traditional sport? Will ESAM ever return our calls? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. It's your boy Mike Dangerous. And please respond to us, ESAM.